right. It's gonna be loud. We're starting on page 142. Okay. Set my timer. I almost forgot. I heard a song today and it's in my head. The Doll People. They are made of isinglass. Dolls you can. Anyway, it's in my head now. Okay, we started. So far, all had gone well. At first, my plan was to launch my boat and make an escape in the night, but I was obliged to give this up, for I discovered that the guard was always doubled at nightfall. Escape, if I escape at all, then must be in the broad daylight. 6 of the Umilobas soldiers stood sentry about my quarters from sunrise to sunset. That they were armed, it is needless to say, but their tiny swords and pikes had no terror for me. With a stout club, I could have beaten them down in a few moments. Their terrible legs and feet, however, so cute. Anyway, it's adorable. Okay. With a stout club, I could have beaten them down in a few moments. Their terrible legs and feet, however, were quite another thing. One blow from the feet of a vigorous Umiloba would have laid me dead on the ground. I have often seen these guards amuse themselves by striking deep holes in the ground or by breaking stone slabs an inch thick with a single blow of their heels. I must choose a different mode of eluding with such dangerous pursuers. They must be drugged, but how to accomplish it? To offer them all food at the same moment would most surely arouse their suspicions. Then again, they did not eat altogether. So too, it would be worse than folly to attempt to drug their drink. What was to be done? Again my heart grew sick and faint within me. I sat down to collect my scattered thoughts. At that moment the attendant began to serve my midday repast. I glanced at the tempting dishes and sparkling wines. It was a feast fit for a king. "Sir Pendulum Leg," said the serving man with a low bow, "this is the season for Olulu eggs. The first find was made today. The nest held 6. His Majesty sends thee 2 and wishes thee a pleasant dream. Now let me tell you what this strange speech all meant. The Olulu bird is about the size of a quail and lays from 6 to a dozen eggs of a jet black hue. But as the bird, whose plumage is as black as a bat's wings, makes its nest in the wilderness among the rank growth of a heather-like plant, of so dark green a foliage as to seem almost black, the eggs are invisible to the hunter's eyes, and the nests can only be found by posting sentinels to mark the spots where the birds were alight. As you may imagine, Ululu eggs are worth their weight in gold. Nay more, the people are forbidden to eat one. Such is the king's command. They all belong to him, and the finder must straightway bear his prize to the royal palace, where a rich reward awaits him. But the most mysterious thing about them is yet to be told. Not only are these eggs the most delicious flavor, but 2 of them are sufficient to throw the eater into a deep sleep, during which the most delightful dreams steal over him. Visions of exquisite loveliness flit before his eyes, and life seems so sweet and satisfactory that waking is really the keenest pain. The cause of this strange effect was for many centuries a mystery, and the ancestors of the Umilobas were wont to worship the Olulu bird as a sort of sacred creature. But the mystery was solved at last. It was found that these birds fed upon the seed of a poppy plant, and hence the power of their eggs to cause sleep in those partaking of them. I ate 2 Olulu eggs to test the matter, and in a few moments I found myself sinking into a most delicious slumber. When I awoke, I saw a light where darkness had lately reigned. The way to escape from King Garu's guards was now clear to me. I at once proceeded to save up my Olulu eggs. In a few days they became more plentiful, and it was not long before I had accumulated 2 dozen of them. And now, thought I, if I offer them to my keepers as a feast, their suspicions will be aroused. They will refuse to partake of them, and the whole matter will be laid before the king, and I shall be shorn of the little liberty I have. Therefore I must use my knowledge of human nature. As each man passed on his rounds, I called him to me, and showing him 4 of the Olulu eggs, said, I like thee, thou art my favorite. Couldst thou be very close-mouthed? The fellow's eyes sparkled with delight, and I could see that his mouth was watering at the sight of the dainty morsels. Upon his assuring me that he would take good care that no one would know how kind I had been to him, I gave him 4 eggs, enough to make him sleep like a log for 3 hours. He bolted them, shells and all. I was much pleased with the working of my plan. The next sentinel, who made his appearance a few moments after the first, was served in the same way, and so on with all the others. Each promised most solemnly never to reveal his good fortune to his comrades. In about a quarter of an hour, I had the supreme satisfaction of seeing all 6 of them begin to rub their eyes, then yawn, then stretch their little arms up over their heads in the sleepiest manner possible. In less than half an hour, they were all stretched out on the greensward, snoring like good fellows. Now was my time to act. I sprang toward my bed to empty it of its contents and launch it on the little river which flowed nearby, when to my horror I heard the Princess Hoppa Hoppa calling, Little man all head, little man all head. A cold chill crept over me. There she came, hopping toward me like the wind, calling out for me to come and make her laugh. What was I to do? Strike her down? Smother her? Oh no, I could not have harmed the innocent little doll-faced being, had it been to save myself from the lifelong imprisonment. Suddenly, like a flash of lightning, a bright thought flitted through my brain. I have run, hopped, and stood on 1 foot, kicked 1 foot high in the air, crossed my legs, etc., to amuse a little princess, but I have never danced for her. If she can find it amusing enough to laugh heartily at such plain, old-fashioned antics, she will surely go into convulsions when she sees me dancing a quick time jig with heels flying in the air. So calling out to her in my gayest manner, I said, Come, little princess, come, little Umilova, hop this way. Be quick, I've something very funny to show you. She didn't wait for a second bidding. With 2 bounds, she was beside me. Bidding her to be seated, I began to dance and she began to laugh. In half a moment, I quickened my step and she broke out into the wildest merriment. Oh, do stop, little man all head, she gasped. Oh, do stop, or I shall die. I didn't want her to die, but I did want her to fall down into a swoon. So now I let myself out. My legs flashed like sunbeams dancing on the water. Bulger looked on in dignified astonishment. He failed utterly to make out what his little master meant by these furious antics. Indeed, they were furious. Faster and faster my nimble feet beat the ground. Wilder and more uncontrollable became the laughter of the little Princess Hoppa Hoppa. The tears coursed down her pretty face as she rocked from side to side. She bent forward and back. Adding still more to my speed, to my movements, I kept my eyes fixed upon her. Victory. The end came at last. She rolled over onto the greensward in a swoon. Now or never, I murmured to myself. In quicker time than it takes to tell it, I aided my faithful Bulger. I emptied the bed of its contents, set the shoulder to one end of it, while Bulger fastened his teeth in some fringe that hung on the other, and then, he pulling with might and main, I pushing with all the desperation of a battle for freedom, The wooden structure was slowly brought to the bank of the river. It was a hard task for us, but we did it. Now down the slippery bank it glided with a rush, striking the water and floating like a duck. In an instant, Bulger and I sprang on the board of the little craft. To rig up one of the sheets as a square sail and set it on the pole which had held the curtains was only the work of a few seconds. A stout, long-handled fan served me for a rudder. Away I was off at last. The wind was fresh and strong, and my square sail worked like a charm. At that moment, a shrill, piping voice reached my ear. Little man all head, where art thou? Come to me. The shrill, far-reaching tones of her voice attracted 100 attendants. They seemed fairly to spring up out of the ground, pell-mell, with a wild rush, the stronger ones leaping over the heads of the less vigorous ones. They made for the river banks. Alarm bells now sounded on every side. Gongs and strangely sounding horns and rattles called to the people to spot where the little princess had been found lying half unconscious on the greensward. The sight of half a dozen sentinels stretched out here and there in the deepest sleep, with scattered drapery and my couch, the bed itself missing, all told too plainly the story of my escape. All this time, my little snug craft was making good headway down the river, which grew wider at every 100 feet. With one wild outburst of shrill, angry voices, the Umilobas turned to pursue the fugitive. Bulger whined piteously as he saw them swarming on the banks. In another moment they began leaping from one bank to another, passing over our heads in perfect clouds. I knew full well that they would not dare to leap into my boat, but I feared that they might overwhelm us with showers of their little spears. However, I determined to try the effect of one of my pistols on them, if their spears annoyed me. King Garu, beside himself with spiteful anger, now arrived upon the scene and took command of his assembled troops and serving men. First he tried entreaty upon me, offering me princely sums and royal honors if I would only turn back. But I was deaf to his honeyed words, whereupon he fell into a towering passion. He ordered his soldiers to recapture me dead or alive. A shower of spears now whistled through the air. Most of them fell short on their mark, for the river had now widened so that I was at least 30 feet from them from the shore whereon they were standing. But a few of these spearlets fell dangerously near me. Fearing that their points might be poisoned, I determined to try the effect of a pistol shot in the air. The loud report of the firearm and the puff of smoke which followed it filled the Umilobas with the most abject fear. They threw themselves on their faces and cried out that I was an evil spirit. I could now see that King Garu had given orders to let me sail away in peace. They made no further attempts to molest me, and yet it was very plain that they were loth to part with the little man all head, for whom their king and the princess Hapa Hapa had conceived so warm an affection. I, too, felt a wrinkle in my heart as my little boat bore Bulger and me away on the rippling waters of the beautiful river, now grown so wide that it was at least 100 feet from the bank, and the palace of King Garu began to fade away in the distance. For several miles they followed the banks of the stream, keeping opposite me, and every anon sending me a goodbye in soft and plaintive voice. Straining my eyes, I could see little Princess Hapa Hapa, borne aloft on the shoulders of a group of serving men, and waving me a last adieu. Then, once more, I caught the sound of that shrill baby voice. Goodbye, little man all head. Hapa Hapa says goodbye forever. And so I sailed away from the land of the Umilobas, the land of the manhoppers. In a few days the river began to broaden out, and the land of the Umilobas was left far behind. The moment I caught sight of any signs of human beings on the river banks, I steered my staunch little boat into a broad cove, whose sloping shores led to lofty tablelands. Here, with tear-moistened eyes, I moored the little craft which had snatched me from a life of keen, through though silent sorrow, and followed by faithful Bulger, struck out boldly for the interior. After a few weeks journeying, I entered a country which was now and then traversed by traders. They were astonished to find me traveling all alone by myself, but readily accepted my statement that I had become separated from a troop of traders, and that my horse had died. I now made a haste to recross India and gain the shores of the Mediterranean, whence I took passion for home, with a joyous heart, and a memory well stored with quaint facts and curious recollections. And then there's a little picture. He's like actually in the bed. I was thinking like a canoe type thing, you know? Okay. Anyway. Chapter 8. In the streams of Constantinople, I fall in with an Armenian merchant who presents me with the MS 6,000 years old. It proves to be Polyimpist. Its wonderful contents. I learn of the existence of a boiling sea and set sail in search of it. 3 of my seamen were swallowed by a marine monster. I rescue them. We reach Neptune's cauldron, description of it and its banks. Strange adventures there. We set sail for home, but are overtaken by a fearful storm which drives us on the coast of China. Bulger saves our lives. I am received with great honor by the dignitaries of the province. Am quartered in the palace of the So-Tu, the Mandarin, Bulger incurs his enmity of the authorities. He is accused of having an evil spirit and is arrested and put on trial. I defend him. He is condemned to death. My efforts to reverse his sentence are successful. Strange adventures in the palace of the Lord Tao Tai. Bulger and I are able to overcome all obstacles put in our way. We are accorded permission to set out for a seaport where we take passage for home. Our joys in finding ourselves safe out of the hands of our enemies. Here's another picture. And it says, some crows like dinner, or like boiled dinners. I don't know what that means. While sauntering through the streets of Constantinople one day, loitering in front of the bazaars, listening to the tales of some storyteller on the street corner, I fell in with an Armenian merchant. He was a man of varied attainments, had read much, traveled much, seen much. We ate sweetmeats and drank coffee together for several days. He was so delighted with my keen intellect, sharp, nipping wit, and great powers of imagination that he expressed himself as being more than paid for his journey to Constantinople, although he had not yet opened his packs. When the time came for us to part, he proceeded to loosen the leather thongs which held down the lid of a strange-looking chest, whose top and sides were covered over with curious figures and inlays of several colors. From one corner of this receptacle he drew forth a volume or roll book of antiquity. To one end of it was attached by a strip of parchment a waxen seal stamped with what to have seemed to have been a monarch's signet ring. This ancient and venerable book exhales a very musty smell. The Armenian handled it carefully, saying, "It's quite old, some 6,000 years old." Seeing astonishment depicted on my countenance, he smiled and continued, "Yes, 6,000 years. It has only been enrolled far enough for me to decipher the nature of its contents. It treats of the human soul and pretends to have solved its mystery completely." Did my timer stop? What happened? Dude. Can you tell I'm tired? Well, we will start right here tomorrow, which is going to be page 148. What page did I start on? Let me see. Hold on. I think I started on right there, 142. Okay. 142, write that down. And then I want to read my little thingy. Quit procrastinating on anything and everything. Time wasted is just that, wasted. Avoid distractions and the noise around me. Block it out. The art of continuous self-love, through food, through water intake, through intentional meditation and thought. Something inside of me is superior to circumstance. Is it kind? Is it true? Does it reflect my authentic self? Focus more on money and its education. Focus more on self-discipline. See the sun. Honor the moon. Forward momentum. The path out of hell is through misery. Honor the journey. We are slaves to our own incessant ways to escape. We are slaves to our own incessant urges to escape the present moment. Meditate, walk, journal, stretch, love animals. Leave life to wonder all it needs. Less stress, more fairy tale. Work on bettering the love I show my body through the food and beverage I put in it. With money, it's not what you make, but what you keep. Focus, lose any ties to victim mentality. Continue to help yourself. I don't know why it was so long to, All right, kids. See you tomorrow.